The recording's already in progress. How did that happen?
Right.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. This is the Pause for a Minute podcast. I promised you that we would bring you some inspirational folks that'll share their faith with you and share it regularly. And we have a pastor with us today. He happens to be my son-in-law. And so I want to welcome to the podcast Pastor Peter Bewie. Peter, welcome, man.
Thank you.
It's been so great, man, to spend some time with you this week.
Yeah.
And your story is so amazing, and what's been on your heart lately is so amazing that I was like, man, we got to share this out, you know, and because I think a lot of people really need to hear this. And why don't we start with this? You're the pastor, you co-pastor with Larice, and you also have raised other leaders there now, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's been on your heart to really take Crossover International Church internationally and really start a branch, you know, there in Sierra Leone. So let me ask you, why has that, what do you think has been the genesis of that being on your heart to want to start that ministry there in Sierra Leone?
Well, thanks again for having me, Pastor. It's been a blessing already, a great week.
We've got a lot of fun.
Sierra Leone, born and raised in Sierra Leone, and someone can say it's obvious as to why, my heart is there and all that. But Sierra Leone is it's ready, or it's been ready for the gospel. The work of God is going on there, but I just believe that the time is right, that we can expand Crossover Ministry, Crossover International Church, told me to reach there also. So I just think it's time, it's time. Yeah.
It's amazing because, for folks that will listen to this or watch this and don't know, I mean, you have still 4 young children. You're going to be uprooting your family for a good chunk of the year to actually be there. So this must be really deep in your core to want to do this. Why is Christianity right now so important that it expands in a place like Sierra Leone?
Like I said, the gospel has been there.
Mm-hmm.
The word of God is being, it's the power of God is moving in Sierra Leone greatly. But as you can look back with the population in Sierra Leone between 7 to 8 million now, 20, maybe 22% of that really have come to know the Lord,
Wow. Okay.
So the work is still there. The work is, we still need to expand, the work there. So we just think with what's happening right now in our country, that the need is still there, that we can take the gospel to Sierra Leone and let our people hear the gospel. The Bible says, how would they hear, if there's nobody to preach? So we just think the time is right to expand the gospel there too. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I want to go to Columbus in just a few, but I think it's important that you have such an interesting backstory of how you grew up. So let's stay in Sierra Leone for a few minutes.
Okay.
And so what was it like for you growing up in Sierra Leone?
Well, it's growing up in Sierra Leone, it's when it comes to sports, I know you're a big sport fan. Soccer, it's a big it's big over there.
Yeah.
I know nothing, no other sport but soccer, so growing up there, I went to church there in Sierra Leone, but wasn't really committed to any specific church. I was going to a Catholic church, Sunday after Sunday, but when I was about 18, 19, and we moved to Conakry, Guinea, and I was in Conakry, Guinea for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
That's really where the Lord captured my heart for the work and really called me into the ministry. So when I came here, it was just to pursue the call of God that was already upon my life. Yeah, but Sierra Leone, growing up there, it was just going to school, go back home, play soccer, go to school, come home, play soccer,
A lot of soccer.
Yeah. So, but the country has been through, civil war for about 10, 11 years, so we went through that. I've experienced a lot of that, part of that, so it's just a blessing to still be alive and to witness to our people.
You've mentioned
Yeah.
that to us before. You were there. If anybody's ever seen the movie Blood Diamond,
Blood Diamond, yeah.
yeah, you
yeah.
said that that's actually a pretty accurate
Yeah.
depiction of what actually was going on back then. That had to be scary.
Yeah, a lot of people, have come out of that now, so we really thank God for, where he has brought us to now. But Sierra Leone went through that civil war. It was crazy, so
Yeah.
Blood Diamond really depicts some of those things that,
Yeah.
that we went through, and so it's
crazy.
It's yeah.
Yeah. So the country's come quite a long way. And
Yeah,
I love now
yeah.
you're saying it's kind of really ripe, for the
Yeah.
gospel.
Yeah.
We asked you an interesting question, I think last night actually, about when was that moment when you knew you wanted to go into ministry, because your journey here to the US was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have that moment when we gave our lives to God. A lot of us have that moment when we, decided, hey, I want to go into a formal ministry at a very young age.
Yeah.
This happened to you. Why don't you share what that moment was like for you, and what led you to want to become a pastor?
Yeah, so I'm in Sierra Leone. I'm still in high school. So my brother was, two of my brothers, they were already here in America. So they fight for us to come to join them here in the States. So we, moved from Sierra Leone, Freetown, to Conakry, Guinea. So we thought it was going to go fast. We're here for this program. It's just going to go fast. And we ended up spending 3 years there.
Wow.
3 solid years. So the first few months in Conakry, I really I went to this church, and I love the people, love the pastor there. So we were there, we were attending Sunday after Sunday, we were going there, and then the pastor had announced that announced a fasting. He declared a 1 week fasting. So everybody, a lot of people, they did the fasting. They will start in the morning, early in the morning, or 12 midnight, and then they will break their fast in the evening. So about 3 of us came together, and we said we are going to fast the whole week, no food, no water. We're just going to go the whole week. So I remember just towards the end of the week, the pastor came to us and said, maybe you guys should drink some water.
Because you went without everything.
Yeah, we
no
just went
food, no
without
water.
everything. Yeah.
You didn't even break it after 12 hours.
No. So at the end of the week, we prayed Sunday, and then Sunday evening I went back home where my family was staying. And that night I lay down, and the Lord just revealed to me the call to the ministry.
Wow.
It was tangible of what he will use me to do if I obey his voice.
Wow.
Wow. So I had a wonderful dream that night, seeing myself preaching the word of the Lord, seeing that the hand of God was really upon me. So I remember the next morning, I just packed all my belongings, everything, and I literally moved to the church. So I stayed in the church the rest of that 3 years until we came to the States. I was actually staying with the pastor.
And you said there were times where you slept on the floor in the church.
Yeah. So when I came to the church, there was no room to, I said, Pastor, it's okay. So we'll just, the pastor bought me a mattress.
Right.
So I will spread it on the, there were fans in the church. So we'll just find one location in the church and just spread the mattress there and just sleep. Early in the morning, we'll wake up, sweep the church, prepare it, for the service.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were doing that for the whole 3 years.
It's amazing. And that's so biblical to have a dream, a vision. You think about how many people, in the Bible, whether it's Joseph or David, Paul, that all had these dreams and visions, and then, really made it, and it took them places, and they went, to these places. That's amazing.
Yeah. So when the call of God is upon your life, even when I came here, I knew the call is still there, but I had already, forgotten that. I said, hey, this is American dreams. You're gonna, run after, whatever you can get and all that. But the Lord still captured my heart and drew me back to the dream and to the vision, to the call that He had upon my life. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
That's amazing. And then it's a lot of hard work that you put in. You went to Bible school, you went to seminary, and you put in all the work so you can get, certified to do the work, that you envisioned that you would be doing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about Columbus, but I don't think I've ever asked you. I'm going to throw a little curveball at you because I don't think I've ever really asked you this. You've heard me mention this before. For those of you who've known Peter for even 5 minutes, he is exactly who he portrays himself to be. He's just this really gentle, laughing all the time, just easygoing soul. But when you start to preach, you just become a total different person. So I've always wondered, like, what is that all about? I've teased you about that before. I was like, man, who was that? Because you start to even sweat at times, and you just, you become a total different person when you start to speak the word of God. And so what's that feeling like for you when you're in the pulpit or when you're actually anywhere? Because I've seen you preach outside of church actually too.
When the Lord called me to the ministry, he gave me the passion to preach, really, to passion to preach. So this was even confirmed when we had a week of prophecy at Elim Bible Institute.
Yes.
Now Elim Bible College. So we had a week of prophecy, and I still remember Pastor Phil. He has a church in Henrietta, Rochester. So he laid his hand upon me and he prophesied. It was a week of prophecy, and he said, in your buying market trips, when you go out with your friends and your day-to-day running and everything you do out there, he said, that's good. He said, but man of God, pastor, when you get behind that pulpit, and he said this word, he said, let it burn. Let it burn, let it burn. He kept saying that.
I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he really laid his hand and he prophesied over me. He said, you're a easygoing man. He said, you'll be out there, laughing and talking with your friends. He said, but when you get behind that pulpit, let it burn. In other words, I believe he was really saying, God is saying, when you get behind that pulpit, give it all, let God use you, allow God to use you.
Oh my gosh, and you do it. You just let it all out, and but it's wonderful. And I did not know that story. I'm so glad I asked you. I didn't realize that they prophesied over you like that, and you've taken that to heart and just followed the calling that God has had for you. Let's talk a little bit about Columbus now, because you've been there now. You guys just celebrated your 15 year being married. And so you've been there for a while, had informal ministry there for a while. So many great accomplishments. What would you say would be one or two things that, and you're still going to be in Columbus, for those that don't know, you're going to kind of do both, you and Larissa are. But what would you say would be one or two things where you've seen God really move over these last 10, 15 years for you guys there in Columbus?
Columbus, it's been just miraculous in every aspect of the work there. From when we launched the ministry, to where we are now. We actually stayed in one building for about 9-10 years. Long time. We were there, and God was just increasing us. God was just blessing us. Not for once did the landlord raise the price, the rent, the rent we were paying. It even went down. He took some money off, until somebody came and bought the building, and then we had to move to where we are now. But really, the work of God has been going on because we totally rely on God to do His work through us. So it's been really awesome. We've had solid leaders who have really stood with us for the ministry, and some of them will see what we're doing. They said, we follow because we see what you guys are doing and where your heart is.
Two things really stand out for me. You guys always had, and I used to ask Larissa about this, you guys would always have a lot of kids, but you didn't have a ton of adults. It was almost like they would drop them off, or maybe one adult would bring 5-6 kids. But what's been amazing is now you see a lot of those kids still come back. They're in either early teens, late teens. They come back, they sing, they're serving with technology and doing stuff, and they're 19, 20, 21 years old, which is kind of been one of those things that as a just overall church in the US, we haven't been able to crack, right? We lose that generation, but you guys haven't. It seems like, I'm recognizing some kids that I've seen since they were 5, 6, 7 years old, and now they're 19, 20 years old, and they're still there serving. That's been amazing to me. But I remember very early on, you said, for me to do a lot of things I want to do, I've got to raise up other leaders.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you've done that. And so when you're comfortably away from your church, whether it's on vacation or you're doing other ministry, you've been able to leave your church, but yet it doesn't miss a beat because you've developed and trained other
Yeah.
pastors and led them to, what credentials they need to get and everything like that. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that. How many pastors have you raised up out of that
We
church
have
now?
two pastors now
Yeah.
ordained in the ministry through
It's amazing.
Tommy. Yeah, yeah. Our
amazing.
bishop laid his hands upon them, Bishop William Turner
Yes.
in Rochester, New York. So he has worked with us in raising these leaders. And the other day he asked me, said, Pastor, I know you're planning to move for the work of the ministry in Sierra Leone. And he said, how is it about that? What do you think about that? How's everything going? And I said, Bishop, I'm just glad that the person who's going to take over the work in Columbus is not somebody who's going to say, well, this is how we used to do it somewhere else. He's going to say, Pastor, this is what we've watched you do.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
He's just coming into the ministry. This is first church to pastor. So he's ready. He's ready and really excited to do that. So every of our leaders, all of our ministers in the church, they've really come alongside with us and they've grown with us. So none of them we've never had them say, okay, well, this is how we used to do it in another church. So therefore, Pastor, we should do it this way. We should do it this way. No, it's just been, Pastor, we've seen you do it this way, so we want to do it this way. So that's a blessing, really.
It really is. And you've got such a tight-knit community. It's not too tight-knit. You guys welcome new parishioners all the time. But they're so tight-knit and they are used to worship a certain way there. And now to have someone that just kind of steps right in and does what you and Larice have done all these years, and just keeps that going and adding their own flavor here and there. I think that's so important. But that's such a blessing. But that was something that you talked about years ago. I remember, you'd have leadership classes on Saturdays and on Sundays and Sunday mornings early.
A lot of trainings.
A lot of training. You were really committed to that. And you've seen the fruit really bear. And so when we look at now in Sierra Leone, is there a different blueprint that you're going to be following, or this has been successful for you in Columbus? Are you going to take that and really, because now you actually are very familiar with Sierra Leone because you guys have gone back a couple of times. There recently, right? Is there anything that is standing out for you that you're going to be doing a little bit different in the new ministry?
We through Tommy, which is our umbrella ministry, our mother ministry in Rochester, New York. So our bishop really has come along to really define for us what a ministry should be like. So we want to take that model and bring it also in Sierra Leone. We are going to raise leaders, but they are still independently running their ministries, but they're still under this umbrella where they can get that fellowship, that training, that to take the work of God to a whole new level. So we really want to. So the model is really be a lot of training, pastors, leaders who can also train other pastors and other leaders to spread the gospel. So what has worked in Columbus, we want to take that also to
that is awesome.
Sierra Leone.
That's exciting. I'm so excited. So we're going to get ready to wrap up, but I have to ask you one other question because I'm hoping that we're reaching a broad audience here, right? And what advice would you give? Let's say I'm 17, 18 years old and I'm just getting ready to leave high school and I'm thinking about going into the ministry here today in 2022. And all churches across the U.S. are really hurting in terms of young folks wanting to go into the ministry. What advice would you give someone that feels a tugging, a pulling on God's heart? And what would be your blueprint for them and advice for them as they might want to dip their toe in and take this journey that you did, 15, 16 years ago?
God is not in a rush to call you. Sometimes he can call you as early as 7 years old, and then later on that call can be realized, So right before I left to come to Sierra Leone, the dream that I was talking about, I had that call of God upon my life. When I came here, I worked for a whole year, and I literally just forgot about that call. I'm like, I'm just gonna work, I was doing 2 jobs, go clock in here,
Right.
and but then at the end of the year, the Lord brought back that call to me, So really, what I will say, if you're a young man and the call of God is upon your life, as you grow up, in whatever you're doing, always go back to that call. It was going back, yes, go back to that call, listen again, revisit it again, and obey. Right when God brought it back to me, that son, I've called you to the ministry. And then that's when I packed my belongings and I drove straight to Elim Bible Institute in Lima, New York.
Yeah.
And then I was there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Graduated and went back to Columbus, and then went to Ohio Christian University. And then that's when we started the work. So that obedience, that voice will come back. First, it will come when you're young, and then it will keep coming. If you as a young man and growing up, if only you can obey and answer that call again, God can realize that call in your life.
Wow. Yeah. That is phenomenal advice. God's not in a hurry. Yeah. That's going to really stick with me. I love it. I love it. Man, it has been great to have you here. And I'm hoping everybody that listens or watches pray behind this ministry and pray behind Peter and his family. They're about to embark, I think, on something enormously special that is going to touch a lot of people. So, we'll be praying for you. And we just thank you for all the great advice and the example that you have set over these years. It'll continue to set. I'll get some music going on the podcast as we wrap up. And so, listen, thank you, man. Great having you here in New York. I know you like New York. We finally got a little taste of Hampton Bay.
I'm part of this community.
You're part of this community now, right? You're a partner here. So folks, this has been Kenny and Peter. Yeah. This has been the Pause for a Minute podcast. God bless you all. Peter, thank you again, man.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me.
Absolutely.